There are a ton of rumblings about the Mets being linked to Tarik Skubal, who I think is going to be available this offseason. And I will say right now, right, we're going to get this out of the way. If Tarik Skubal is available, you have to do everything you can to trade for this guy. I know he's a free agent after 2026, and he's going to want a ton of money. There's already a bunch of distance between him and the Tigers. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Tigers are not going to pay him. They're not going to re-sign him. They are going to trade him this offseason. I would be stunned if they didn't. I'm going to need to be shown actual evidence of the Tigers in the last several years giving players who deserved long-term contracts those contracts. I'm pretty sure Glaber got short-term deal. I know Javi Baez, I think, has probably burned them enough to not be interested. But on top of that, Prince Fielder, Miguel Cabrera, two other incredibly long-term deals for guys that did deserve them, but completely blew up in the Tigers' face. And I will tell you right now, a small market team like Detroit, they remember that kind of stuff. They are not interested getting tied down with Tarik Skubal for 9-10 years, whatever he's going to end up wanting. Aces, guys like Tarik Skubal, are not available very often. The Mets found out what happens when you don't pull the trigger for that ace. Last year, Garrett Crochet rightfully did not have as much of a track record as Tarik Skubal, so you could understand the Mets being a little shy about pulling the trigger on a big trade for Garrett Crochet. But he instantly showed that he is one of the best pitchers in baseball, that you should believe the hype, that it is well worth the investment, and now the Red Sox have their ace for like the next 8 years. If Tarik Skubal's out there, if he is available, again, these kinds of aces are not available very often. This is a guy that you have to make an effort to get, because the Mets are in a very unique spot. Other than the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox, most of the teams that would match up in a trade in terms of like farm system quality for Tarik Skubal are not going to pay him. The Milwaukee Brewers, the Cleveland Guardians, the Rays, these teams that always have really strong farm systems, they're not opening up the checkbook for a guy like Tarik Skubal. The Mets have the money to get an extension done as soon as they trade for him. As soon as they trade for a guy like Skubal, they could sign him instantly. And they already have a bunch of Boras guys on the team, so this is not an issue with Scott Boras. Now the question is, what does that trade look like? Tarik Skubal has 1 year left on his contract. So realistically, if the Tigers had evaluated their window to win a little bit differently, they probably would have traded him last year, especially after seeing what the White Sox got for Garrett Crochet. That would have been a great opportunity to be like, hey, our guy's available too. The White Sox legit got like 3 or 4 guys who were all on their major league team. They all played really well last year, so they're headed in the right direction. I think the Mets are going to be very uncomfortable with the asking price for a guy like Tarik Skubal, but I'm not a prospect hugger, right? I'm not one of these guys that thinks every single person in the top 30 of the prospects is going to be a Hall of Famer. You got to give to get. We're literally talking about the availability of arguably the best pitcher in baseball. Now, I know Paul Skeens probably the actual best pitcher in baseball. It's close. It's very close. He is not available. Okay, he's got like 6 years of control. They're not trading Paul Skeens, and if they did, the Pirates need to just be removed from Major League Baseball as a franchise altogether. But I think what works against the Tigers in a Skubal trade is looking at what the Brewers got for Corbin Burns. That Corbin Burns trade was really bad. The Brewers got Joey Ortiz and DL Hall. Neither of those guys is that good. They traded, at the time, one of the best pitchers in baseball for 2 guys who both are not very good. Now, Joey Ortiz is the starting shortstop on the Brewers, but that's because it's the Brewers. They're cheap as hell. If they could get an actual real shortstop who didn't have a 600 OPS to play there, they 100% would. So do the Mets have a package like very mid fringe MLB players like Joey Ortiz and DL Hall to get a Tarik Skubal? Absolutely they do. Are the Tigers dumb enough to make that sort of trade? No chance. And Skubal's better than Corbin Burns. It's probably costing you Tong, Jet, plus more. If realistically you want to be in the conversation, right? Because the Dodgers have a great farm system. The Red Sox still have a really strong farm system. It's costing you at least a couple guys you've heard of. I know that's a big thing with prospects. If you haven't heard of them, you don't care. And if you know their names, you're like, oh, how could we give up that guy? You got to give to get. You got to give to get. And I will always trade the unproven for the proven. I like Jonah Tong. I like Brandon Sproat. I've been hearing about Jet Williams for like 3 years. And I think a guy like Jet Williams has a lot of potential. But also the Tigers going into next year. I think Glaber is a free agent, so they have an opening at second base. Tong or Sproat, I think either of them would slot right into the Tigers' rotation. Now, I think the issue here, too, is that the Tigers would have to deeply reconsider what their plan is going forward. Because if you trade Skubal, you don't have an ace. Casey Mize is pretty good, kind of. Reese Olson is fine, but like Skubal was a 7-WAR pitcher. If they don't have him, they don't make the playoffs this year. Like, that's the kind of difference maker he is on their team. You put an extra 7 wins onto the Mets and they like win the division. At the very least, they make the playoffs. But like you remove, Sanga or McGill or whatever these guys were who were just selling games all year, and you put Skubal in there and the Mets are a playoff team. Like, it's that simple. So this really becomes an issue of like, how badly do you want to make the playoffs? Do the Mets feel like giving up guys that they think are part of their team going into next year, like a Jet Williams or a Carson Bench? I don't think you get both because, again, 1 year of control and you're trading for a guy. You're telling the Tigers, hey, I'm trading for this guy. It's going to cost me $400 million. So, like, can't give you, as if he had 2 or 3 years of control. I can't give you that, but I can give you like half of that. So, again, one of those two, probably a Tong or a Sproat, and then a couple of guys you probably haven't heard of, or even, maybe some of the smaller names like Jacob Reimer, Ryan Clifford's another one, AJ Ewing. I mean, there's some guys that the Mets have been moving up through the system, Nick Morabito. But I think, it's going to cost a couple of big names. And I will say objectively, I do think the Mets match up the best with the Tigers in terms of a Skubal trade. So I would not be surprised to see this happen. I do think he's getting traded. You cannot be $250 million apart in a negotiation and keep the guy. This is the same mistake the Angels made with Ohtani. They should have traded him. If you know right now that he wants that much money, he's gone. He's gone. The Tigers are not giving him $400 million. Like, this is the same with the Orioles when they traded for Burns. Like, if you're not going to extend these guys, don't have them on the team. I can absolutely see them trading him. I think the Mets probably match up the best just in terms of major league ready guys. I know people are going to throw in Vientos or Mauricio. Nobody wants those guys. Nobody wants those guys. Those guys do not belong. Their names do not belong in the same trade as Tarik Skubal, one of the best pitchers in the last 10 years, right? But the Mets do have pieces who absolutely do and could get a deal done for sure. I think it's worth it. Let me know what you guys think. I know everybody has different opinions. Prospect hugging and who's going to be great and who the Mets need to keep and whatnot. Free agent class for starters this upcoming offseason is cheeks. It's absolute garbage. And so you're going to have to go through the trade market, and Stearns loves to make trades. So this is his opportunity to make a really big splash.